Which real-life cheat codes do you know? Story 1. Worked at a call center for a credit card company. If you ever get hit with a late fee, politely call customer service and ask if there's a possibility of getting it waived. We didn't have to ask a supervisor or anything, just pushed it through. Have done this multiple times now for my own cards. Don't pay late fees. Editing to add: if you do call customer service and they help you out, please, 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 stay on the line and fill out the survey and give them all perfect scores. We got big bonuses on our scores, and it really meant a lot when people took the time to do it. If you want to complain, do it in the comments box, not on the actual scores. One bad score can tank the bonuses, even if it was a bad rating on the product and not the service provided by the agent. Story 2. To learn something, repeat it to yourself 3 times on the day you learn it, 2 more times the next day, once the day after that, and you know it most of the time. Story 3. Automated phone systems don't understand nonsense. If you need to speak to a person, answer the prompts with things like chicken nuggets or shoelace. It will assume an error in its language system and route you to a person. Story 4. I got a job as security at a concert venue because ticket prices were getting to be insane and I wanted to see some shows. Turns out I also got to meet some rock stars. Story 5. When your alarm goes off in the morning, do not think, only react. If you sit up immediately and start getting out of bed, it becomes a reflex. No more lying in bed for hours trying to wake up. Now I hear my alarm and brain is alert and ready. Story 6. Confidence can get you super far. Like, if you just act extremely confident and normal and totally fine about whatever it is you're doing, anything nearly, people won't question it. You're supposed to be here, just walk on in. Or out, or whatever. That's the attitude to have. I cannot believe how well this works for some of the nicest people, as well as the biggest jerks alive. It works. Story 7. Managers give your employees the credit they deserve for everything they do, especially talk them up to your bosses. This is a literal win-win. Your employees love you for respecting them, and your boss loves you for successfully managing a great team. Too many times I see bad managers bring their own egos into the mix, feeling like they need to compete with their own employees to take credit for jobs well done. This does not have the effect they think it has. Story 8. As a management consultant, 2 of the best pieces of advice I've ever gotten are: never be afraid to be the one to end the call, and don't sell past the close. The first one's obvious. Everyone hates that awkward period at the end of a conf call when it's pretty much over, but no one's ready to just say it. If it's really over, don't hesitate to just say, "Awesome. Thanks so much, everyone, and have a great day." The second one's actually way more important if you're in a meeting trying to land a contract and they say, "Sounds good. Let's do it." Then shut up, shake their hand, say, "We'll get you a draft agreement tomorrow," and walk out the door. No small talk, and definitely no following up on that point we were discussing in the middle of the meeting that you seemed interested in. There's no upside. You can't make them more ready. They've already agreed. Best worst case is you bring up some kind of new point that makes them want to step back and talk more about the overall plan before they're ready to sign. Worst case is you bring up something they didn't realize and you scotch the deal before you've left the room, which I've seen happen more than once. Story 9. When someone's wrong on the internet, type out what you want to say, then delete it once you've got it out of your system. It's incredibly cathartic. As you organize your sources and logic, you get the time to sort out what you think and why. And you can calm down a bit as you let reason take the wheel instead of your emotions, which lets you realize that nothing you say matters to them anyway. If you find that your finished product is particularly well written, feel free to save it off to the side as a sort of personal study if you want. Excellent Zen hack. Story 10. Never commit a crime during the commission of another crime. Example: if you are transporting illicit substances, don't go speeding around in a car with a busted taillight and expired tags. Story 11. People like talking about themselves more than they like hearing about you. If you interact with people for work, memorize one thing about them. Could be a kid's name, a sport they like, a hobby they do, their job, etc. Ask them about it every once in a while. People are always surprised and appreciate your interest in them. Story 12. For me, it was maintain a healthy weight, which most people think is to help your overall health. And yes, that's very true. But from a pain standpoint, it's really great. Like several of you, I'm sure I'm just in pain all the time. Maybe it's my back, or my neck, or my knees. But God, if getting from the beginning of the day to the end of the day doesn't hurt. Turns out, losing weight and keeping that under control, which means adding in the gym a few times a week and watching what I eat for 4 or 5 days a week, makes all that pain go away. And in hindsight, I knew this, but to actually feel it was a world of difference. Someone once told me, "You suffer alone," and it's true. You also feel good alone. So, better to have the latter of the 2 options. Story 13. Admit your mistakes quickly and without undue apologies, self-flagellation. Not only will people trust you more, you'll usually move on from the mistake much faster. Story 14. If you have a hobby, relegate one day a month, at least, to doing something major tied to it. If you like fishing in the afternoon some days, set aside a whole day to start early. Go to that place you wanted to fish at and set up for the whole day to do what you enjoy. I personally like tanks. I make model kits and play games involving them. So, once a month, I make it a point to find a museum that's hosting tanks and go visit it. Bovington is a 2-hour drive, but I never feel like it wasn't worth it, even if I'm just wandering around stuff I've seen before. Simply find a big thing tied to your hobby and do it. You'll find that hobby far more engaging. Story 15. Saying hello in an unexpected way knocks the person you're talking to out of their groove and changes how they interact with you. Instead of "how's it going?" I say "how's life treating you?" and get a more engaged interaction. Story 16. If you want to change the subject in a conversation, discreetly but noticeably drop something. Make it look accidental. It will break the train of thought of the other person and allow you to restart the conversation. Old dark psychology trick. Story 17. It's easier said than done, but life is literally so much easier. Now that I am on 100 lubbies, less than I used to be, I am way more rested. Probably had mild sleep apnea before. Literally sprint upstairs now, barely sweat anymore, spend less on food. And now that my body is adjusted, I'm no more hungry than before, clothes actually fit, and I'm excited to try new stuff on. Everyone treats you better, from coworkers to your boss to random people you see. Women are much more engaged when talking to me, and I've even been cold approached a few times now. I used to basically be invisible to society, so it is such a dramatic change from where I was 2 years ago. Story 18. One that I used to know years ago. When I would come home from college, I worked for a home appliance rental company in delivery and install. Sometimes we would deliver coin card-operated laundry units to apartments. One time we did a full replacement of about 12 coin-operated washers and dryers to new Maytags that used a card system. The senior guy who drove our delivery truck and told me what to do showed me how to reset the units and make them automatically go into run mode, and how to force off the system just by pushing buttons. No key card needed, nothing to unlock or disassemble. He was surprised by how many questions I asked, and he was pleased that I was showing interest in the work and said as much. "Well, yeah," I said. "These are the same exact units we have at college. I'm never paying for laundry again." He looked at me for a solid 10 seconds, rubbed his eyes and said, "I'm going to pretend I didn't just hear that." Whenever I asked questions from then on, he always asked why I wanted to know. Didn't pay for laundry anymore at school, though. LOL. Story 19. The more you understand, the less you have to memorize. Understanding is a knowledge compression algorithm. Pythagorean theorem, distance formula for a circle. Story 20. You can beat or reduce speeding tickets by realizing one simple thing. Police officers don't want to die. If you keep that in mind in every action, from when you see the blue lights until you get the ticket or the warning, you will see a significant decrease in your fines. Pull over as far as you can to give them room. Turn on the dome light if it's after dusk. Turn off your car and put both hands on the wheel, roll down both windows. Sometimes they come from the passenger side. Get them what they want when they ask for it, and not before. Hands on the wheel when not getting items requested. Don't be a edit additional from comments. Roll down all windows, especially if tinted. When opening glove compartment, open it, and before reaching in, give the officer a beat to look inside. Everyone I've taught this technique to has told me how well it's worked for them. Story 21. If you have something nice to say to someone, like you think they did something neat, or have a cool shirt, or made a good moral choice, it's generally good to say so and not wait for a better time to tell them. You may not remember or bother later, but most people really benefit from encouragement or appreciation when it's genuine. If you have some criticism or something rather mean to say, try to wait a bit. You may find you don't need to say it, or you may find a way to express it that will be more useful and digestible to the person rather than just them off. Obviously, they aren't always possible, but it's a good life hack to be kind and encouraging on the spur of the moment, and to be circumspect and thoughtful about criticism. Story 22. Very hot water temporarily takes away the itchiness of bug bites and poison okavai sumac. Just listening to people is almost as good as being able to read minds. Most people will cheerfully reveal exactly what they're thinking if you just listen quietly. It could be through what they say, what they don't say, or their body language. Your own ego causes 99% of the trouble you face. Story 23. Drink water, stretch. Your lower back is sore because your hip muscles are tight. Edit. Thanks for all the comments. I snowboard for a living, and my body goes through a lot of abuse. But the same things apply to a less active lifestyle, adding glutes to the stretching thing for back pain too, because they sort of come as a pair with your hips in the sense of what muscles pull on your lower back. Do dynamic stretches before exercise. Avoid holding a position for more than a few seconds. Stretching too much before causes pulled muscles to happen easier. After exercise, after your muscles have cooled down, that's when you do the long static stretches where you hold for a while. The idea is to stretch the muscles around the group that has the pain because everything is connected. For my lower back, I like to start with my hip flexors and glutes, then quads hammies, then calves at band, then ankles feet. After all that is loosened up, I then stretch out my back. Start mellow if you aren't very flexible. It's easy to overstretch your hamstrings and hips. Story 24. When stressed, take a walk around the block. Take deep breaths while doing so. This should help one bring down the emotions enough to think rationally. At least once per month, go out to a park or nature preserve, or anywhere where noise pollution is reduced and sunlight is high. It does wonders for mental health. When job hunting, one does not need to fulfill all of the requirements listed. Most job applications are wish lists of what an employer wants. Having 60-70 of the skills necessary is often enough. Front load as much as possible. This applies to chores, work, cooking, finances, etc. If you have time, energy, money to spare, get as much done as possible so when crunch time comes around there is less to do. Tally up your average expenses and subtract from your income. Then divide the remainder by the number of days in a month. This will give you an easy-to-remember daily allowance to do whatever you want with. Story 25. Being unnecessarily nice and thoughtful. Out of the blue pays back huge returns. It feels good doing right by people, but it's hugely helpful in your career to have a great reputation. Competence is rarely enough if you want to be extremely successful. You have to cultivate relationships. Remember people's birthdays, write them down. Get them small, random gifts occasionally, and not in exchange for a favor. Show kindness to people lower on the ladder. You may report to them later. Life isn't Game of Thrones. Being a usually, though not always, catches up to you. The opposite is also true, pleasantly enough. Story 26. You only get one life and one body, so take care of it. Do what feels good, have that extra slice of cake, drink the good beer. But going for a run before makes that cake taste 5x more delicious. And the beer. Story 27. Set your mortgage payments to pay half every 2 weeks. You save on interest, and for the 2 months of the year where you get 3 paychecks, you'll be putting extra money toward the principal. Will save you in the long run and help pay off your home sooner. Story 28. When shopping at small businesses, businesses with only one location ask if there is a cash discount. If they say yes, they'll charge you the price, no tax, and added credit fee. Story 29. On Amazon Prime, you can cancel your membership and only pay for the days you use. For example, I have had Prime Video since the 13th of June, set for renewal on the 13th of July. However, I can cancel my membership now and receive $3.83 back. If there is a film on Prime Video that I really want to watch, I do this, as then it costs a lot cheaper than renting it. Story 30. If you want to know something but can't find the answer, ask about it online. Then use a second account to give an offensively wrong answer in an arrogant tone. People don't care about helping you, but they love correcting others. Story 31. I had knee pain that made hiking hurt, and my knees would wobble all the time upon descent. Hiking fixed both issues. Don't underestimate your body's ability to be absolutely amazing. Story 32. The Ben Franklin effect. If someone dislikes you, ask them for a favor and be appreciative of them if they oblige. Won't work if there is a strong reason for their hating you, like you drove drunk and killed their kid. But if they are your run-of-the-mill haters, then it works like a charm. Story 33. If you have to cancel a hotel reservation and you're too close to the reservation date and will incur a fine or not get a refund at all, sometimes you can move the reservation into the future far enough to cancel without penalty. Story 34. If it's bleeding, put antibiotic ointment on it. If it's not bleeding, but it's red and/or itchy, put hydrocortisone cream on it. Most of the time, it'll get better. Source mom was a nurse. Story 35. Go to events by yourself. You can get really good seats for pretty cheap a lot of the time because people will have one extra ticket they're just trying to get rid of. Story 36. You can make more friends in 2 months by becoming interested in other people than you can in 2 years by trying to get other people interested in you. Story 37. If you need an umbrella, don't buy one. Just walk to the front desk of a hotel restaurant and ask if someone found yours. It's a small black one. Works most of the time. Story 38. Caring about other people's opinions of you, including how you look, what you do, don't do, what you drive, where you live, etc., etc. grants them power over you that very, very few, if any, are worthy of. Story 39. Always tell the truth. You can get real far in life when people trust you. Plus, it's so much easier than remembering lies because you only have to remember what actually happened. Story 40. If you are broke, you can look up if a hospital is nonprofit. If they are, and you do not make more than the poverty line in wages, the hospital is legally obligated to forgive your debt. Get yourselves treated. Don't think you can afford to be taken care of cause of bad life situations or because you are poor. Story 41. Joining a guild and starting a clan greatly increase your happiness and respect stats. Edit am talking about finding a friend group and starting a family. Story 42. Be nice, polite, and know who you are talking to. Let's say your boss says some really wrong or bad thing. Example. I think I should be president so I could print out more money and become so rich so, you know that wouldn't work, right? Don't try to explain it to them. Just say some BS like haha, right? This will stop a future argument that might lead into you being bad in the eye of your boss. Or let's say your boss says, I think the world is flat, because if it were round, we would fall. Don't try to make them understand the situation. Just stay neutral and say something like, good point, being polite will usually open you many more doors. Story 43. To say the alphabet backwards, you only have to think like this. You know the last three letters? Zix initials of the worst two states for memorization purposes. WVUT. That's our Q to P on Martin Luther King, SR Quan MLK. You've made it halfway through the alphabet. Now dance a misspelled victory jig for the cop or Fed making you do this. Juck Fed. Now do the first three letters. CBA. Story 44. I bought a few rolls of raffle tickets online. If there's a festival or carnival, I check what color the tickets are, and I arrive and live like a king. Story 45. Don't wait until the person is dead to tell them how you feel, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. Once they are gone, it's too late. A huge waste of time obsessing over someone who is no longer here. Story 46. To save time. I sometimes pretend that I'm the dumb one that may have made the mistake to avoid the whole "it wasn't my fault" conversation. It allows me to take blame and move on to the solution when the solution is all I care about. I don't care who's at fault, I just need it fixed. Story 47. Your attitude decides your altitude. If you're an impossibly optimistic person, good things will happen to you more times than not. That victim mentality is for the weak. Story 48. That fact that more people don't have high-yield savings accounts is baffling to me. Most don't have balance minimums or monthly deposit requirements. Even if you only put 100 in to start off, you will still make way more passive money than if it were just sitting in a regular checking account. Story 49. You will get what you give. Conversely, you need to give what you get as well. This means sticking up for yourself when it is necessary. Never tolerate any disrespect. Ever. Story 50. Swallow your pride. Most people can't. It'll take the wind right out of their sails in almost every argument or aggressive situation. You know you're in the right? Who the cares what they think? I think of it as if life were a game of rock, paper, scissors. It's like knowing in advance that the other person is always going to throw paper. Story 51. Buy stock and firearms in the summer of an election year. Summer is always tight on the gun industry, so stock prices plummet. Come election years, they reverse and everyone gets worried and buys gun ammo. Since elections are in November, it's also close to Christmas. If a Repub wins, sell. If a Dem wins, hold till January or so and sell. Story 52. Some jobs requiring unusual technical skills get few or no applicants. If you're interested in the job, apply even if you don't have the exact skills. They might hire you anyway if you appear sincere and someone who can learn. I've changed careers 3 times by doing this. The downside is that, OMG, they hired me. What was I thinking? Now I actually need to do this thing. Story 53. Asking for a favor makes you more likable. Use in extreme moderation or it will quickly backfire. In a conversation where everyone is standing, the direction feet are pointing can be a pretty good indicator of relationship. Story 54. Using the rules found in the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Dale Carnegie is a game changer. It is the handbook on human relations. If you follow the rules, you will find you will be much better off. Story 55. If a holiday falls on a Thursday, take the Monday off after, not Friday. Can't say this is true for all businesses, but most customers' patients will have off that Friday, and it won't be busy. Then Monday comes, and everyone's panicking and all the phone lines are lit up. Plus, I'd rather have 2 short weeks instead of a 4-day weekend. Story 56. No or no thank you are complete statements and necessary as a first step to preventing others from overstepping. It's always going to be a little tricky, but it's the cheat code for asserting yourself and preventing others from taking too much or asking things you can't and shouldn't submit to. When you don't say it despite knowing you should have, that's the cheat code for depression, learned helplessness, and being taken advantage, victimized by those who will have picked up on this, like sharks smelling blood in the water from a mile away. Not learning how to say is its own cheat code for a very cheated, miserable, precarious, battered life. It is always better to be rejected by someone who can't or won't tolerate no from you than for you to have ever exceeded even 1 inch where your needs, integrity, or safety are implicated. Story 57. Just try to be kind to everyone I meet. I go out of my way to be pleasant and polite, and it pays dividends. I can't always successfully do it, but at least I try. Story 58. A lot of sites use the same discount codes. Welcome, 10 off, birthday. People have made lists of common ones, but I usually just try a couple when I'm checking out, and every now and then I hit on one. Story 59. If at all possible, give yourself a day between arriving home from your travels and going back to work. I use that day to unpack, do all the laundry, go through the mail, etc. I leave the house cleanish before I leave. This buffer is also helpful if you end up delayed, etc. I usually go through my work emails solely to delete the spam, so I feel as ready to go for work as I can. Story 60. I used to be a trauma nurse and also did a lot of ride-along with the fire department. And if everybody starts doing this, I'm probably going to screw the country up, but it's my favorite real-life cheat. When you get in an elevator, if you hold down your floor button and the door close button at the same time, it will take you straight to your floor without stopping for everybody else. We would do it with critical patients, or if we needed to get to a person's condominium or office fast in an emergency. They used to work in every single elevator, but I've noticed in the past 2 or 3 years that it probably works in about 80 of the elevators I've been in lately. I try not to abuse it too much, but it is handy when you're in a hurry. Story 61. I actually got this from Reddit, but compliment people on things they can choose, rather than things they can't. Telling someone they have nice eyes may be a kind thing to say, but they've probably either heard it their whole life, or maybe even they don't like that trait. But the shirt design or pair of shoes they chose that day is likely a whole lot more validating. Fun bonus. I complimented my now wife on her earrings. Our first date for this very reason. I ended up telling her a while later, and to this day won't let me live it down. You probably just saw that on Reddit. Story 62. When going grocery shopping, park close to the cart corral so you don't have to walk so far to return it. And especially if you have a toddler who you can put in their seat and still be close by as you return the cart. Story 63. Treat customer service people like people. Simple, I know, but I go out of my way to use their actual names when talking to them. When I worked in customer service, people who used my name and thanked me, addressing me as a person instead of a means to an end that they desired, would receive literally all the help I could give them. Story 64. When to lie and how to do it effectively. Read your employee handbook, people. HR is your enemy. Knowing when to blatantly lie will save your job. Admit to nothing. Make them prove anything. Story 65. You will get treated differently if you're dressed better. I'm not even talking about dressing expensively. If you're wearing a suit and tie, you will get better customer service. You will get treated differently by employees. And people will generally not question your presence in a lot of places you'd normal catch scrutiny for. Story 66. I remember when I started working at a call center, I had this girl training me who was so mean. She'd yell at me on the phone when I was talking to a client telling me everything I was doing wrong. Just a nasty person. When my boss asked me how the training was going, I praised her. The next day she thanked me and was nice to me after that, LOL. Story 67. If you're doing something you're not supposed to do, either act completely oblivious and unaware, or totally confident and convicted. The in-between is where you get caught. Don't drink alcohol. If you have to ask, the answer is yes. When driving a rental, near your odometer is an arrow that tells you which side the gas is on. The longest line is always the line closest to where people enter the area. The longest food-drink line at a concert or game will be the vendors near the entrance. The longest line at a stadium will be the one closest to the parking lot. A person can be crazy, but the fun kind of crazy. But fun crazy is still crazy, and that crazy will eventually come your way. If you're doing psychedelics at a concert, always take a before. Even if you don't have to, force out whatever you can. Story 68. 1. Leave the place person better than you found it. 2. Everyone is going through some sort of battle. Be nice to them. 3. FFS, don't buy knife block sets. Just get a decent 100 chef knife, and suddenly you're going to start loving cooking. 4. You're simpler than you think you are. If you want to get into decent healthy routines, Pavlovian dog yourself, reward yourself when you do something nice. 5. If you're in deep hole in your life, be grateful for every small thing that day and every small accomplishment. 6. If you want an easy way to do 10,000 steps per day, Get yourself a medium-sized dog. 7. Detachment is a super skill. Put things down on paper to create more headspace. 8. Buy the best quality gear clothing you can. One pair of good boots that last 5 years is better than 4 pairs of shitty ones you don't really like. 9. Brush your teeth while taking a shower. 10. For a good eye contact, just pick one of the eyes to look at it. 11. You'll have to be first. You start a conversation. Don't expect the other person to do it, they won't. 12. Ask her out. The girl, the dude, the job opportunity, the hobby you had on your mind for the past 18 months. Credit Theo Vaughn. Story 69. Seems like more tips than cheat codes. Actual cheat code. When visiting supermarkets or gas stations and you don't have a rewards account, just enter the area code that you're in and enter 8675309 as the phone number, and you will 100 of the time hit on an account that has rewards. Story 70. When you unplug a curling flat iron, say out loud, "I unplugged the curling iron." Saying it out loud will help keep you from doubting having done it when you leave the house. Story 71. Just tell the truth. As a medic, all I want to do is help you. I don't care if you took an illicit substance and I'm not telling the cops. Just tell me what it was that you took so I can make the situation better. Story 72. If you sleep in the same bed as your SO, don't share a blanket. Each person should have their own blanket, whichever one it is that helps them sleep the best, colder or warmer, comforter versus quilt, etc. You'll sleep so much better. Story 73. Use ChatGPT or something similar to simulate your upcoming interview for a new role. They are getting really good and enormously helpful, especially if you can't afford a 11-human coach. Edit be as detailed as you can. I'm an entry-level software engineer applying for a junior role at Google. I especially need help with my technical interview. Pretend you're interviewing me and ask me questions like Google would. Story 74. Counting calories is how you control your weight. There's no "what if it doesn't work" bullshit. It's factual and it works 100 of the time whether you eat healthy or eat junk food. Everything else is just bullshit to get your money. Or a really complicated way to say that, yeah, you need to create a calorie deficit to lose weight. There's no other answer to weight loss. Story 75. If going to a pub or restaurant, try and find out what their mystery shoppers buy. The chain I work for has them always order certain drinks to make sure they are being served correctly. Once you find that out, your service is going to be fantastic if you order the same thing. Story 76. Keeping your wallet in a hip holster and taking it out as quickly as possible while being pulled over to not waste the officers and your time. You'll probably avoid a ticket for being so proficient. Story 77. This only works on older gas pumps, but if you squeeze the trigger and repeatedly press the grade select button, you will see that gas will steadily flow at a slow rate, and the counter will stay at 0 until you stop pressing the button. This is due to a software issue that primes the pump when the button is pushed. In the right place and time, you can fill your tank for $1. It just takes a while. Try it. It may take time to find a station that it works at, but once you find it, you got it made. I know a handful of stations in the San Francisco Bay Area that this trick works well. E.g., the station on the corner of Llewellyn and East 14th in San Leandro. You are welcome. Story 78. If you're stuck trying to finish or even start something like studying or working on an assignment, take a piece of paper and write down your thoughts or anything you're worried about. Once you've got them all, put the paper away and you should feel more relaxed to finish what you were doing. Helps a lot of procrastination and anxiety. Story 79. If you're married or have a trusted partner, register your vehicle in their name and their vehicle in your name exclusively. The DMV will only have record for the one driver owner. If you get caught by a red light camera or speeding camera, the ticket will go to the owner if one is sent at all. Have them reply that it wasn't them with a copy of their license. They are under no obligation to share any more information. The ticket gets thrown out. No one is charged or fined. Story 80. I figured out how to trick my wife into. I give her compliments all the time they're true and try to do things to make her life easier better. I've been married for 15 years and I just figured this out. Better late than never, I guess. Story 81. Learn the basics of different con games. When you learn these, you will recognize them everywhere and how extremely effective they are. This allows you to defend yourself as well as amp up your business game a bit. Simple things like start with very simple facts, giving easier explanations while verifying how smart they are by keeping up. Complicate it slightly but still compliment them on keeping up. Ask them if they are keeping up, but do not give them time to actually think about it. Speed up the temp, complicating it more and more. They want to understand so they can be rewarded with the compliment, even though you lost them. They want that compliment of how smart they are and nod when compliment them on how much they seem to already understand, even though you are completely making everything up already. In the end, They'll want to believe everything you told them because they are smart and know you understand that, but subconsciously understand that disagreeing or admitting they did not understand would remove all the rewards they received for keeping up. Their ego will con them into believing whatever BS you hand them because they are so much smarter than the average person. Study this for a bit, then watch the evening news. You will never unsee it again. Story 82. Say thank you instead of sorry in most situations. Thank you for your patience sounds a lot better and more professional. Thank him. Sorry, I was late. Story 83. Being gay is a get out of free jail card for parents asking when you're going to have kids. My dad asked once. Asked if he'd like to cover insane amount of adoption or surrogacy fees. Never asked again. Story 84. If you can survive any form of suffering that others can't, you'll succeed. Learn to suffer in healthy ways. Some might call it sacrifice. People are more entitled now than ever. They demand being comfortable and confidence. If you can bypass this mentality, you can put yourself 10 years ahead of your peers. You'll know what you want, and you'll live with conviction in accordance with your goals and suffering. Learn to love the lows because they will make the highs higher. If you can master duality, you will live a life of sublime clarity. Story 85. Balance bike. Easiest way for a kid to learn to ride a bike. Oldest kid I taught with training wheels, and dad running behind. The old school method. Came with lots of frustration and of course the minor injuries kids get learning to ride. When kid 2 was old enough, my wife got him a balance bike that one of her mom group friends recommended. Night and day difference. Son scooted around on it for a few months. Wife found a tiny pedal bike at a thrift store and he rode it the first time on. Learning to balance is harder than learning to pedal. Ultimate parent cheat code. Story 86. When dealing with large organizations and not being in and trying to do something reasonable, you will inevitably run into a roadblock because of policy. The way around it is not explaining why the policy is stupid. The other person knows that and has likely had to deal with this before. The magic phrase is okay, so what is the workaround? There is a high probability someone previously has found a route through the Byzantine bureaucracy, and if you are nice about it, they will explain what the last person did.